the old salty sea biscuit in barbecue pork.
Run up me jelly hole and slop out the galley, and carrying cargo for old cowboy Sally. She's a strange one and a wild one and as sharp as a fork. I'll bring her a jiffy bag for barbecue pork. Oh, barbecue pork. Oh, barbecue pork.
The end.
Well, history is written by the winner. This is a loser's song. I took this job in the summer, never saw the winter rolling on. I never thought it would end in a second, a burn-out smoking wreck. Expectations and ambitions were just a rope around my neck. Put my back to the crust, saw my dreams die in the dust. Now I'm walking on house roof looking at the flowers. Walking on house roof looking at the flowers. Oh, in blue, red, yellow, blue, so sweet and true. There's nothing better to do. Well, I'm not hiding, come and find me. What am I doing? There's no need to remind me. Walking on house roofs, looking at the flowers. And create of me in the miles per hour. Keeping out of reach of a higher power. The bees are buzzing in the April shower. The spoils belong to the victor. This is a consolation song. Your life is science fiction. In a flash then you be gone. No more tries and no more troubles. Bad luck and bursting bubbles. Walking on house roof looking at the flowers. Just walking on house roof looking at the flowers. Walking on house roof looking at the flowers.
Anne Bourbon Levinsky to Sophie Bourbon, August 1st, 1986. Dear Mom, don't call anymore. I can't deal with you and your bullshit right now. After all we talked about, I can't believe you treated me like that. Where shall I start? Or should I even bother? Yes, I'm old enough to get the bus from downtown. Okay, you were busy, drunk, so you couldn't meet me. Yes, I mind sleeping on the floor with a bunch of ugly, wasted people I don't even know, shouting all night, crashing into each other, playing stupid hillbilly music, doing drugs or whatever. Yes, I want to talk to you alone. It was so disgusting. I was scared to use the towels in case I caught something. Couldn't they just pay for a hotel? These people are using you. How do you expect me to feel? Yeah, that's my mom's house, the one with the hammer and the sickle hanging in the window. Never asked you for anything. You dare to criticize my life, my politics, while you throw your life away on some booze drunk. Can you imagine what it feels like to be called a little motherfucker by your own mother? Just don't get it, Mom. What are you doing? What is it with women of your generation? You come on all pious to your daughters about feminism and then you throw yourself at these dingy men playing loud, ugly music. And don't tell me there are women in the band. That won't wash. You and I both know what this is all about. Don't call. I can only imagine what Dad would say. Does he know that you're like this? Anne.
Memphis, 1988. Tony Fitzpatrick is being ejected from Graceland for running upstairs and jumping on the bed. An act he deems crucial to a pilgrimage he's making across the Old South on a credit card and a prayer. This huge ex-boxer, ex-junkie, ex-jailbird and ex-car thief looks like trouble to us and demands to know what the fuck the Mekons are doing hanging around outside Elvis's house. Painting and drawing saved Tony's life, got him out of prison and provided a focus for his limitless hoodlum energy. Later, he'd bully me into making art seriously, so it's fitting that I'd run into him on a trip that took me to Nashville for the first time. Me, Sally, and Matt Riley from The Fall are busy failing to promote an album of Johnny Cash covers we've produced to raise money for an AIDS foundation in the UK. And a few days earlier, we'd wandered into Tootsie's Orchid Lounge, the beer joint across the alley from the old Ryman Auditorium, where inspired lushes like Patsy Cline, Hank Williams, Roger Miller and Farron Young came to get wasted between sets at the original grand but dry old Opry.
Every inch of Tootsie's walls are covered with old publicity photos, the icons and relics of a culture that buried its dead high on barroom walls, framed, torn and embalmed in amber layers of nicotine snot.
Rabbits frozen in history's headlights, signing their contracts and their souls away. Used up, spat out and finally forgotten like the waste products of any other industry or theatre of war.
Eyes, teeth, pearl buttons gleam and gaze out hopefully from behind glazed promo shop grins.
Old stars,
Dead stars,
non-stars,
cannon fodder,
glimpsed through the murky paranoid depths of America's neglect.
lost in a fog of dim lights, thick smoke, and cold, cold war.
And as you stand and stare and try to take it all in, blind optimism and hopeless nostalgia race in opposite directions, like freight trains, oblivious to the logs that have fallen on the tracks up ahead, and the tidal wave of mediocrity that will sweep away all but the memory of a time when great visionaries and pioneers thrived at the heart of the mainstream, and the lid wasn't on so tight.
Shoved through the rock door today, through a minefield of terror, the enemy's terrain, down in the vault, locked away. When stripped of their pen, how the engines will roll, and he'll rise above the steps and nobody's, and he'll wake up one day in the back, shut away. A storm dead and fries down in wild West Yorkshire, Texas, of Britain, I begin to recreate the images I'd seen at Tootsie's Orchid Lounge. I make paintings of country and western publicity photos, not paintings of people, but paintings of photographs that have been left on a wall to decay. I start to think of them as semi-religious icons, so I add gold to the frames and backgrounds. Then I spit on them, rub in coffee grounds and gunk, slash the surfaces with knives, and toss them around the room to imitate the corrosive power of time and neglect. I never thought of selling or exhibiting these works. Mostly I gave them away to friends. But later in Chicago, working artist Tommy Fitzpatrick hunts me down and tells me I was born to etch, man. And I start going to his studio every Saturday to produce a sheaf of black and white copperplate etchings of scratched up entertainers surrounded by details from Dutch still life, classic western wear, and the Cold War. There's Tom Jones levitating over South Wales, Bob Wills fast asleep, Louis Armstrong, Yuri Gagarin, Dorothy Lovecoats and Hank Williams as St. Sebastian shot through with arrows,
signing his contract and going head-to-head with Joseph Stalin, while an ugly angel whispers, "All the fame of lofty deeds must perish like a dream."
Country music has a great tradition of answer records, songs that comment or cash in on someone else's hit. So I imagine the Soviet dictator Joseph Stalin responding to Cold War Hank Williams' big political number, "Oh No Joe," with his own "Hank Williams Must Die." Kind of like Kitty Wells slinging "It Wasn't God Who Made Honky Tonk Angels" back at Hank Thompson, except with a big moustache and hands drenched in blood. The fact that Uncle Joe never had a hit with that song and probably never ordered the hit on Hank Williams says something to me about the gnat-like impotence of political pop. If it isn't obvious already, all these images are deeply autobiographical. Tony shows my etchings at his World Tattoo Gallery, and people actually buy them, causing some rusty old lever to flip over in my brain. Click! Make art, whir, sell it. This came at a very good time, a time when the Mekons may or may not have been signed to Warner Brothers' Latin division, but nobody really knew or cared, except some distant and invisible gaggle of lawyers squabbling over tiny slices of nothing. I remember a conversation I had that year with a German fan. "You must feel so funny carrying your obsolete guitar." "For sure, yeah, I too once enjoyed Mekon's music, but now there's only techno." Not long ago I decided the country music I loved was pretty much dead. So I made some gravestones and took them down to Nashville, hoping to piss people off. We got loads of press, and the gallery pestered all the music road types to come on down and attend their own wake. One big label delighted us by asking to be removed from the mailing list. But the opening of the Death of Country Music art show was a big disappointment to me. It was packed. Packed with industry insiders who guzzled the free wine and perused the stones approvingly, anxious to know that I knew that they knew what I was on about. There I was calling them murderers, and they just whipped out their checkbooks. The following Monday, Mercury Records called and asked me to do the cover for a compilation of unreleased Hank Williams tracks. Zap, they Herbert Marcuse'd me again. Every man has his price, and that day mine was $6,000. Well, tonight the West is sleeping, and the desert will be creeping inch by inch across the continent. And the homes of country music lie there in their casket beneath the towers of Nashville in a deep black pool of neglect. So we cast our nets in the water, drag the pool on the corner, we grind them up and snort deep into the night. And we spill some blood on the ashes of the bones of the Jones and the Cashes, skulls in false eyelashes, ghost riders in the sky, G-Cup.
Dear Mom, I ran into Kathy Monroe at a book signing and she asked about you. Thought it was about time that I wrote. I'm okay. I keep thinking I should call. I'm doing a bunch of classes and working in a coffee shop at night as well. So I feel kind of like a zombie. You're pretty famous among a certain crowd. Some people think you don't really exist. That's how I feel sometimes. Did someone make you up? I wonder about that and then I forget. The air smells now as if it blew from some faraway meadow. They've been making hay somewhere under the slopes of the Andes and the mowers are sleeping among the new-mown hay. I bet it's cold in Chicago. Is there someone there to keep you warm? Maybe I'll come and see you in the spring. Is Dad dead? Annie.
The punk country connection snapped into focus around Chicago's Bloodshot record label. While Nashville bolted its doors to anything but the most banal, a bunch of Chicago musicians and recent arrivals like Freakwater, Nico Case, Kelly Hogan, the Hanson family and the Waco brothers were repossessing rural American music and bending it to their will. To many it seemed like this thriving scene just dropped out of the sky, but there's some secret or forgotten history here, because in the middle of the last century, Chicago acted as a lightning rod for country music, just as it had more famously for blues and R&B. Before Nashville's Grand Ole Opry ever went on the air, WLS in Chicago began broadcasting a show called the National Barn Dance. It ran uninterrupted for 36 years and became the most popular country music variety show in the US, blasted into the newly electrified parlors of rural America on 50,000-watt lightning bolts of sound, and drawing huge crowds to its Saturday Night Live broadcasts, where cast members like Gene Autry and Patsy Montana became national stars. Enormously popular but never pop, the National Barn Dance was eventually outflanked by the Opry in the 1950s, scrapped in favor of rock and roll and news radio in 1960, briefly revived as a regional TV show, and then soundly forgotten. Its diehards banished to the clubs and bars where rumors of Chicago's great legacy as a country music town have been whispered about persistently ever since.
The barn dance was a magnet for hillbilly hopefuls like the Sundowners, who headed north with big dreams but hit town on the wrong side of the curve and earned a working man's living in a shrinking scene that was all but paved over by the time the Mekons came looking for honky-tonks with authentic cowboy thrills. Through 30 years of grueling 8-hour, 5-day-a-week shifts, Kurt, Bob and Don played the clubs on Madison Street, the Double R Ranch in the Loop, and finally tried their hands at running their own place at Mannheim Road out by the airport. And with never a cuss word spoken on stage, they plucked 1,000 drunken requests from bulging folders of handwritten lyric sheets that spanned the breadth and depth of American music and projected their 3-part harmonies out over the pissed-up chatter and clinking glass through the hovering nicotine fog and watched as visiting baseball stars and obscure Midwest TV cowboys carved their names in the furrowed tabletops. All was gracious and aloof as lame local anchormen and British punk rockers stumbled on stage to murder the classics. They'd each had their opportunities to break for the big time, to play the Nashville game, but they stuck it out in Chicago, comfortable in each other's company, standing their ground together. And for us, that was half the attraction.
I'm a dreaming cowboy. I'm a dreaming cowboy.
Gonna sing you a song about an old cowboy who never let go. He rode from town to town, year after year he rode the rodeo. But now he's busted and beat, but he won't take defeat, 'cause he's a dreaming cowboy.
I'm a dreaming cowboy. I'm a dreaming cowboy. I'm a dreaming cowboy.
I was not quite at home when I moved to Chicago, my band in legal limbo. I was stuck out in the deep suburbs, broke and sleeping in my girlfriend's parents' attic. We liked to hang out at the Sundowners Ranch, perched on bar stools by the swinging doors, marked bulls and heifers. It was the only place out there I knew anybody. Our little oasis in the sprawl with its relentless John Wayne rec room decor and a surreal food menu that climaxed with something called a chili mac salami tamale perch bowl, the house special. After playing George Strait's All My Exes Live in Texas, Kurt would announce, 2 of my exes live in Illinois, one's in Indiana, and the other one, well, she's in hell, I guess. He said that every time they played the song, which was every time I saw them, along with, my first 2 wives left me, but this one just won't. And a personal favourite, this song is called Never Hit Your Grandmother with a Shovel. And they'd always ask me up to play, which was flattering, scary, and ultimately educational. Back in Leeds, Rico Bell and me would do Buck Owens covers in pubs, and even our friends wouldn't come. So getting on stage and singing Hank and Johnny with the Sundowners in front of a crowd of genuinely mean and inebriated Americans meant tangible vindication, a rite of passage. And that acceptance of me coming here and doing what I wanted to do was what I loved most about this contradictory place, where ordinary people go dancing and drinking on a Saturday night under the flags and guns and skulls that give the faintest glimpse of that dark, violent face America shows the rest of the world. She is dancing with death in a dark dress. Yes, she is dancing with death in a dollar dress. In a dollar dress. There's a box in an attic in a rundown northern town. There's a key on a shelf so you can look inside. There's a song that will pick you up and spin you round. A photograph and a letter left behind. Can you prove you're alive? Do you know where you've been today? It's sewn into the fabric of your life. It's washed and mended, worn away. She is dancing with death in the dark dress. Yes, she is dancing with death in the dollar dress. In the dollar dress. Now the hooter sounds, the whole town shakes again. A line of ghosts clock out at the factory gates. Cousins, sisters and brothers spitting home. They fill the streets and make the traffic wait. Will the flag still fly? If the wind don't blow today, it's sewn into the fabric of your life. It's washed and mended, it's worn away. And she is dancing with death in the diamond dress. Yes, she is dancing with death in the dollar dress. In the dollar dress. In the dollar dress.
December 15th, 1993. boys and girls were around. I didn't go to see them. Surprise. They played on Halloween, and this crazy guy that Sven knows went down there in a big Victorian dress with a hammer and sickle painted on his face. So typical. Thought you'd enjoy that. What a joke. Yeah. P.S. In answer to your question, private charities and volunteers would look after the mentally ill. Capitalism is beautiful. Fuck Clinton.
A few years ago, the Mekons crisscrossed this vast country in a van with no working cassette or CD player. We became frothing, bitter slaves to the dial. And it's a desert out there. Thousands of radio stations all playing the same fucking 24 songs, 24/7, with any sense of regionalism ground down into dust. This iron grip of corporate control over cultural output seems almost Soviet. Here be monsters indeed, the genius of capitalism at work, kinder, gentler Stalinists don business suits and dictate the soundtrack to our lives, all the while projecting an illusion of choice that stifles any dissent.
Salty sea biscuit in monkeys.
Here be a song about monkeys. It's for Cowboy Sally. Monkeys in the garden are climbing up the walls. They're swinging from the trellises because they don't care at all. Monkeys in the garden, they're playing silly games. Monkeys in the garden, come let's call them by their names. There's Chimpy Jump and Charlie Cheetah, Chopsy Jump and Chew, Chugga-Lugga 1 and Chugga-Lugga 2, Cheeky Cherry, Chumba-Wumba, Chuck and China Blue. Oh, monkeys in the garden, lads, now what will we do? What will we do? What will we do?
The end.
You'll have noticed I have a love-hate relationship with America. I love George Jones and I hate George Bush. I was drawn here like a bug to a headlight. Thank you. You'll switch that thing on again if I say anything more about politics. I was drawn here like a bug to a headlight only to find the land of infinite rocking wonder and musical discovery I'd envisaged buried under a smooth corporate blanket of sameness. And nowhere was this neutered orthodoxy more oppressive than on country radio, where all the greats, the icons, the heroes had been gutted and stuffed and locked away in museums, only to be wheeled out occasionally like Lenin's mummy to grant some legitimacy to the new regime. Hank and Johnny don't get played on the radio anymore, and we're being forced to dance to a different tune. Train. In every town there's the same tribulation in every state I wake up in. The night before was a dim recollection of powders and bottles of sin. There's a barbed stranger heading out the door, just about half my age. Blood on the walls, glass on the floor, I don't think I even made it on stage. I said, doctor, doctor, sign my prescription, I'm in trouble again. Well, ever since I was a tiny little baby, I couldn't get rid of the pain. Shake my hips, but I walk like a cripple. My body is getting too thin. I can count every one of my bones in the mirror, poking through my cold white skin. There's a shiny star on the dressing room door, but I'll be out in the back of my car, because I don't know a soul I can trust with the money or the tune on my guitar. Drink out pills and Nashville radio, life will never be the same. Chills and spills from Maine to Mexico, riding on my funeral train. I can't sleep without the engine humming and the wheels rolling night and day. I can't sleep without the Nashville radio slipping through my chemical haze. They're playing some song that I don't remember with the DJ calling my name. If they play my songs on the Nashville radio, life will never be the same. I said, doctor, doctor, sign my prescription, I'm in trouble again. Well, ever since I was a tiny little baby, I couldn't get rid of the pain. Ever since I was a tiny little baby, I couldn't get to sleep at night. I've been listening to Nashville radio hours before daylight. They threw me off the grand old hungry, cause I couldn't behave. I never knew how many friends I had till I was lying in a cold damp grave. I gave my life to country music, they took my pills and lost. They don't play my songs on the radio, it's like I never was June Cook. In an Alabama lockup, he looked at me and he laughed. He'd heard my songs on the Nashville radio. He asked me for my autograph. He said, doctor, study my prescription. I'm in trouble again. And ever since I was a tiny little baby, I couldn't get rid of the pain. Drink out pills on Nashville radio, life will never be the same. Chills and spills from Maine to Mexico, riding on a funeral train.
First page missing. And tell Ken he's just a smartass. If the Goths and the Vandals were just angry campers, who were the Romans? The FBI, I have no doubt. I don't need running water. What's all this fuss about running water? Do the Mekons have running water? I can't believe you. You make me so angry. Be seeing y'all, Annie. P.S. Grow up, dude. P.P.S. The dead were awesome, of course. You hate me.
The Sundowners said they'd play our wedding so off, but we never knew. We never knew if they were coming till they came. As dark clouds gathered in the June sky, they rolled up the driveway in a big gleaming station wagon, all decked out in matching silk bomber jackets with the Sundowners logo on the back. They played a set and my friends and family from Wales and London and New York danced around and yelled until the temperature dropped and the band retreated into the house to stuff their weathered faces and schmooze with people their own age. They were very popular with the Welsh ladies. Hours later, I prized them back outside for a short second set, and of course they didn't want pain, so I gave them 3 matching bolo ties I picked up at Alcala's Western Wear, and they went away. And one by one over the years, they got older and sick, and the ranch closed down. The Mayor Daly, made December the 4th Sundowners Day, and we celebrated it with a couple of big parties. And then Don had a stroke and lost the use of his picking hand, and Kurt died. Bob Boyd came and sang on a Pine Valley Cosmonauts tribute to Bob Wills we recorded at King Size, a punk rock studio in hipster Wicker Park. He walked right in, took off his Stetson, spiked up what little hair he had left, and stuck a metal ring in his nose saying, "Just thought I'd try and fit in." But he was already sick and died the following year. We went to his wake, and we sat with his family and looked at pictures and drank and smoked by the Coke machine in the back of that grim suburban funeral parlor, and told old stories and somehow felt at home. My 3-year-old staring unafraid into the open casket asking, "Daddy, who's that cowboy?"
Careless, hopeless, I'll drink at night, frightened by the thunder and the roar. Many times you see me out there on the line. I'm a man who died a long, long time ago. I'm a man who died a long, long time ago. The trail is hard, but it leads everywhere. Out in the desert glare, I pull my hat down over my eyes, hypnotized by the image on the screen that sheds so white and clean, silver pistols at his side. Take a trip to the wide open spaces, looking for the traces of the wild frontiers home, riding out. Feel the rain on our faces through familiar places. The trucks stop and the home. This country starts to look and sound the same. There's a singer on the radio, and I don't like his name.
One night, long after the Sundowners Ranch had closed its doors for good, we visit a hillbilly bar on the north side of Chicago that boasts live country music 7 nights a week. It's late, after the show or something, and as we approach, we barely notice the cop car pulled up on the sidewalk outside or the fluttering strip of yellow tape that's come unattached at one end. The cop is probably asleep, but as we step unthinkingly through the dark puddle that blocks our way to the door, the car's lights and speakers burst into life. What the fuck do you think you're doing? Get back! The sticky substance we're walking through is of course freshly spilled human blood. A little altercation inside spread outside and got resolved with a knife. The victim stabbed 7 times and spitted it away with lights flashing and sirens wailing, refuses to die or even press charges against his incompetent, murderous drinking buddy. And back in the club, the atmosphere is decidedly subdued. The bloodletting done, the sacrifice made, so the band plays on.
Told me, son, always be a good boy and don't ever play with guns. But I shot a man in Reno just to watch him die. When I hear that train roll, I hang my head and cry.
I shot a man in Reno just to watch him die, sang Johnny Cash, trying to come up with the baddest line he could think of. Contrary to the prevailing myth, Johnny never spent more than a night in jail, and only then for the heinous crime of picking flowers. When Sundowner Kurt Delaney's widow, Joan, comes to our shows, she gets mad if we don't do Cocaine Blues, another song recorded by Cash but with roots going back darker and deeper. It's a really nasty little song about snorting coke and shooting your girlfriend. It's also a very funny song, full of vicarious thrills for candy-assed, law-abiding wimps like Johnny Cash and me. I personalized my version to incorporate a flight from justice that ends in arrest at the Rainbow Club in Chicago and the incarceration of my fat Welsh carcass in Leeds' notorious Armley jail. But I didn't change the line. I can't forget the day I shot that bad bitch down. I couldn't come up with anything badder. I don't know if that makes me a sexist pig any more than it makes Johnny Cash a mass murderer, but there's gruesome pleasure to be had performing and listening to this sort of stuff that's as uncomfortable as it is addictive. When rapper Ice-T wrote Cop Killer, he was savaged by media and politicians right and left alike. In his defense, he pointed out that this wouldn't have happened if he said what he said in a novel or a movie. But he didn't. He wrote a song. And even though I can't explain it, I relish that difference. Songs are powerful, and it's really hard to separate the singer from the song and the song from reality. Rennie Sparks of the Hanson Family says,
I think of murder in songs like murders that take place in dreams. Just because you dream you're an axe murderer doesn't necessarily mean you want to be an axe murderer. It's a language of symbols that can't be deconstructed that easily. The words in songs are a language of dreams, so the women tend to be the symbols of beauty, frailty, rebirth, etc. That's why they need to die so much. All beauty must fade.
Please stand up for the Welsh National Anthem. It's not a request.
Not optional.
Please stand up for the Welsh National Anthem. You have legs, use them. Thank you. Show some respect. I come to your country, I show you respect. Thank you.
Yes, exactly.
I saw the night on the night when I stood by her window, and I caught the flickering shadows of love on her blind. She was my woman. As she deceived me, I stood and went out of my mind. My Delilah. day when that man rode away, I was waiting. She crossed the street to her house and she opened the door. She stood there laughing, but I felt the knife in my hand. She laughed no more. Jon Massey on the drums. All that pop star celebrity activity, yeah, you can sit down, it's all right, yeah. That was very nice of you all to stand up. You must be very tired. I've noticed these seats are very comfortable, but don't lean back in them too suddenly. Put your back out. All the pop star celebrity activist stuff gives me the creeps. I'm not Bono on 60 Minutes giving the Pope a go on my trademark wraparound shades, or Sting on the cover of some glossy Saving the Rainforest in full tribal body paint, which to me was a bit like wearing blackface for civil rights. And most benefit albums are notoriously crappy, tossed-together artistic botch jobs that guilt you into coughing up for causes that no one could really disagree with anyway. A feel-good rush of righteous concern that soon dwindles away into complacent amnesia. We decided to make a record to support the Illinois Coalition Against the Death Penalty. No fear of fluffiness there. An activist and death row lawyer, Dick Cunningham, told me support for capital punishment in this country is a mile wide and an inch thick. So I wanted to make a really good CD as an extra little chisel to get modest but useful amounts of cash into the hands of an organisation who needed it and knew what to do with it. To people who rolled up their sleeves and fought a thankless, contentious, glamour-free battle inch by inch and case by case for years, in the courts and out in the cold, and on death row when no one's supposed to care. Things were moving. There was a moratorium in place, and even Illinois' Republican governor recognized the system was broken. We called the album The Executioner's Last Songs, and they were packed with murder ballads, old, very old, and brand spanking new.
Pine Valley Cosmonauts consigned songs of murder, mob law, and cruel, cruel punishment to the realm of myth, memory, and history.
Or so it says on the cover. Meaning, wouldn't it be nice if we could just sing about all this mayhem without actually having to do it? Wishful thinking on my part, but initially the death songs versus death idea was a bit of a one-liner, just the conceptual glue to hold the concept together. Maybe I realized that, later I realized that many of the songs we'd chosen had been big hits during country's golden age, despite their morbid, violent subject matter. Yet none of them could be played on country radio today.
Death songs, cheating songs, drinking songs, classic country's stock currency have been banished from the airwaves in favour of weird, sanitized fantasy vision of small-town, Bible Belt America where the only divorce is from reality.
Yes, it's all elves and wizards again. And 5 minutes field research, 5 minutes field research, 5 minutes! I had to listen to that stuff. I was driving in my car and I put the radio on, it was 5 minutes. But field research on Chicago's US 99 is all you need to confirm my prejudices. Let them cry, let them giggle, let them sleep in the middle. Oh, just let them be little. Followed by, if heaven was a pie, it would be cherry. The roads cut deep into night. The railways change their names and don't connect. I remember Alverno, roads that never crossed is along the hill. Wouldn't swim in the channel, oh now. People paralyzed at Oxwich Bay. To contain a skull of chemicals. Can't take the boy down there, what will his mother say? Someone's dead in Clarence Place. A tripod handshake, a face like a wildcat grave. Was some problem with the feet, but we were soft-spoken, formal and discreet. When the lid is down and you're underground, I wait and watch, just hanging around. Horses in black feathers, breathing heavy at the front of the motorcade. In the barber shop, in the game, in the land of the wrinkled old world, all men the same. Yeah, all men the same. Born to brutalize on every scale, on every scale.
Skipping down the iron line, cocoon and a fist. I'm running through the tension rods, never kissed. So stop all that moaning and sing, along with the sirens outside. I'll be over in time. We can take a ride.
Put these lurches into the road, breathing deep. There's buckets of flames, rooms full of sleep. He needs a little love at closing time. He needs a little love at closing time. He needs a little love at closing time. He needs a little love at closing time.
He needs a little love and closing time. Needs a little love and closing time. He needs a little love and closing time. He needs a little love and closing time. He needs a little love and closing time.
Thank you. Good night. Harry Nels, Gene Cook, John Massey, Tom Maimone and Sally Timms. Thank you very much.